Hello, everybody, and welcome to the UX and Data Meetup. Today, our topic is creating engaging experiences for the virtual world, and we have special guest Phil Libin from mmhmm, who will be leading that conversation. I will tell you more about Phil in just a few moments. So this meetup's been around for many years at this point. We have three organizers who are doing it. So we have Kim Moy from Capital One. Kim is a senior manager of product design over there. And Capital One is a fantastic place to find your UX career if you're interested in something really interesting in the finance world around New York City. You can always contact Kim for more information about that. We also have Bill Prickett from Prickett Media, who does all sorts of amazing things around technology and video. You may have seen him back when he was producer for Double Dare back in the day. These days, he's doing things like producing video for the art conference. And luckily, we're always glad to have him here with us as as a member of our team. My name is Matthew Weber. I'll be your host today. Hi there. I work at a company called Development Guild DDI, and I work on collective intelligence for nonprofits, and that is a lot of fun. Moving forward, our big sponsor is General Assembly. And General Assembly is, when we are a physical meetup, and we are based out of New York City, we have all sorts of friends from all over the world right now. We're happy to have you there. But when there's not a coronavirus pandemic going around, we meet in New York City at a place called General Assembly, and they are our premier sponsor. If you are interested in getting training and getting jumping into either data science or user experience, General Assembly is the premier training destination for you. We highly recommend it for your future career ambitions. So as a quick question, we're going to say, hey, who is hiring? We like to find out what's going on in the world, and we like to provide a little platform for folks to do shout out about whatever you might be hiring for at your company. Just please share in the Zoom chat with that prefix hiring, and then whatever else goes in, like the name, the company, role, contact info, and link, or whatever those you can remember in the next few moments. We also do a great Q&A. I think this is honestly my favorite part about this meetup, and what we've put together here is you all out there. We have an amazing Q&A, and we hope that you will be posting your questions in the Q&A section. I think it'll be in the bottom of your Zoom, and we will be collecting those. We'll do a Q&A at the end of the session today, and that I'm sure will be a lot of fun. And now I think that's all we need to get things started. We're gonna have Phil Libin, who is going to be our presenter today. So Phil has a very interesting history. If you look back in time, he used to be CEO of Evernote, and then he went on to become CEO of All Turtles, which is a mission-driven product studio making things that matter in the world. The thing that caught our eye most recently, though, is this application called mmhmm. And mmhmm is really sort of something that is tackling one of the biggest things I think that's going on right now, which is what we're in right now. How do you have an engaging presentation online with a lot of people when that technology is not very new? We're used to having meetings in person, and we've gotten very good at it for hundreds of thousands of years, but jumping online is new. We're still trying to figure out how to get really good at it. I think Phil is doing a very, very good job with mmhmm. And he's going to talk to us a bit about his thinking about it and what they're doing with their products. I'm very excited to have him here today. So I'd like to have a nice little virtual round of applause and welcome for Phil Libin. Phil, you can take it away.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Nice to be here with everyone. And we are definitely hiring. So just to rush right off the bat, like all positions, I put up a link. It's mmhmm.app. /jobs. I think we have over 20 job listings posted, and we're fully distributed. So we're never going to go back to an office. All positions are global, anywhere in the world. Engineers, designers, marketing folks, lawyers, kind of everyone. Please check it out. And also Andrew Owen, who's our head of community, he's in the audience here. He's on the chat. So if you guys have questions and you ask them in the chat, if I don't see them because I'm too busy, moving my face hole, whatever Andrew says is legit. So thank you. I guess what I'll do is, happy to make this super interactive. So just ask questions, at any time, and I can start out. I'm assuming that Some people know what mmhmm is, but a lot of people probably don't because we're brand new. We've only been out of beta since November, so it's only been like 4 months or something, 4 or 5 months. But basically, the idea is we made this company during the pandemic. We started working on it in May, and we called it mmhmm. And our 1 second pitch is that it's instant weekend update. We think people are generally familiar with this style. We want to make it easy for you to be engaging, more effective on camera. Right now, it's works with anywhere where you show up on video. So the idea is you'll use it with, Zoom, like we're doing now, or WebEx or Meet, but also, for meetings, but also for recorded videos. If you're just streaming something onto YouTube or something like that, or doing a virtual event, if you're showing up on video, we're trying to make you better on video. And our thinking was when we started working on this in May, we went fully distributed in March, like I think a lot of people. And for the first few weeks, for the first maybe couple of months, it wasn't boring working from home and being distributed, because it was terrifying. We were like really scared. If you guys remember the first few weeks, it's all like you're just doom scrolling all the time, and what's going to happen, and are we all going to die? And at least one thing you can say for being constantly terrified is that you're at least not bored. But a couple of months into it, and the immediate panic, I think, had subsided, and we actually saw, look, we're actually being pretty productive at All Turtles, and we're getting a lot of work done. But man, the tedium just set in. Everything was just tedious and boring, and it was so easy to feel like an anonymous head in a video box, without any kind of personality. And we noticed that a lot of stuff just started being less effective. I thought our meetings were less effective, our presentations were less effective. I do a bunch of investing, and so just like the pitches I were hearing were like boring and dreadful. And I thought maybe it was because I think, as Matt said, back in the before times, back in the real world, most people who were decent at their job, or just like reasonably good at life, could kind of figured out how to be a little bit charismatic and persuasive, like in person. You kind of have to be, like, if you go around life and you just bore everyone that you encounter, like, you're not going to get very far. And so I think we'd all kind of figured that out. And then when it went to video, it's a very different thing. Like, being persuasive on video, being charismatic is. I heard someone say charisma, and I was like, it's so terrible. It's going straight in the act. Being charismatic on video is different than doing it in person, and most of us don't know how to do it. And so everything just became ineffective. And I thought, well, not everybody sucks on video, right? There's like whole industries of people, and actors and musicians and athletes who are not bad on video. And like, what do they know? And how do we give everybody else the same kind of tools, same kind of vocabulary, without requiring people to have, a production team and a team at all, or anything like that. So that was the motivation behind it. And we started working on it really just as a, just as a joke. Like, we weren't intending to release it as a real product. So the way it works in just 2 minutes is you pick your environment. So we have, like, you can use your actual real room, or we have a couple hundred virtual environments and settings. We have stuff that's set up for like it's a little bit more whimsical. We did this for Pi Day a few weeks ago. It could be more. If you get paid to have deep thoughts, you could do something like this. Spacey. Some of these things are just more whimsical, more fun. And I've kind of been liking this one for the past few weeks. This is like my Norwegian wood cabin. And then I have a screen, which I could just show stuff on. Originally, we made this literally just so that I could show off Instagram photos. I used to go to Japan a lot. There's a lot of pictures on my Instagram feed of just like funny things in Japan, like things with good names. Like this one, I had this, like, I used to keep a package. I used to keep like a bunch of these bath salts in my desk drawer at work. And then, if a coworker would just get really, like, if they were upset, if they were really like anxious about something, kind of panicking, I'd be like, look, it's fine. Just go home, relax, take a bath. Everything will be fine. I would hand them the bath salt, and it's only slightly creepy, but tended to work. So lots of stuff from Japan that I liked, or I could just put up slides, right? I can present. When I think one thing that we noticed right away when we started all living on video, and I was never a video guy before this, by the way. Like I hated video meetings. I banned video meetings at Evernote. Well, not fully, but like from board meetings. Like my policy for board meetings was like, you show up in person, or you don't show up. No video meetings, no dialing in. All that stuff was terrible. I was very much an in-person guy. I would make a lot of decisions by like going on coffee walks with people. I would just walk by someone's desk and, hey, let's go grab a cup of coffee. And we would walk and make important decisions. So I was very, very skeptical about all this stuff. And one of the things we noticed right away is presenting on video, doing like PowerPoint slides on video is god awful. I mean, it's god awful in real life, but it's even worse on video because it's just awkward. Plus, like, you're asking people to choose between paying attention to you, paying attention to your slides. It just doesn't work well. Plus, most slides just look like crap on Zoom. So what we did is we made it really easy to just like type some stuff in. So you can just type in, a couple of words, pop up a slide. These automatically adjust as I adjust my environment. So if I like change my room, these will be restyled automatically. I'm not doing anything, I'm just changing rooms, and the slide is changing. So you can have lots of different effects for whatever mood you're trying to set. And the cognitive style that we're going for, we kind of think through a lot of like, what is the cognitive style? I think I think a lot of companies that make presentation software, because their job is they make slides, and so they pretend that like the slides are important or the most important thing, which is understandable because that's what they do, is they make PowerPoint or whatever. And of course, you're like totally wrong about that, right? The slides have never been the most important thing. You've always been much more important than the slides, right? An effective presentation is always more about the person talking than about the slides. In fact, the slides used to be called visual aids. Like it's the thing in the background. Literally, it should be the thing in the background most of the time. It should be the thing that's helping you get the message across or remember it. And so we're trying to make an easier way to have this like cognitively more humane, more cognitively ergonomic approach to presenting, because PowerPoint slides were among the worst things in the universe before COVID. PowerPoint slides on video is just it's basically worthless. Of course, if you want to use legacy slides like PowerPoint slides, you can do it. You can just import Keynote, PowerPoint, PDF. You just throw them up behind you. You could talk with them over your shoulder, so I can like I can like whoop, I can like shrink a little bit, get out of the way, so I'm not like covering things up. Or I can go full screen in this thing, and I can shrink, and it can become a blue Jedi Force Ghost, and I can fly around, and I can say 55%, and this is the most important owl to our times because it's also not wearing any pants right now. And do stuff like that. I can plug in my phone. I can experiment and do all sorts of other stuff. So that's the very quick product demo. There's a bunch more stuff, that I can do. I can do this with multiple people. I can record everything and send it out ahead of time. So I can transform synchronous meetings into asynchronous meetings or into hybrid synchronous, asynchronous meetings. That's how it works. And the main philosophy behind all of this is that I think like this is the big change in the world. This is like the multi-trillion-dollar change I think that's happening right now is everything's hybrid. What I mean by hybrid is kind of specifically, I mean like this, like if you imagine all of the different experiences that you have in life, at work, whatever, and you kind of lay them out on this axis of in-person to online, and then you cross it with live to recorded. It's going to make this like, consulting 2x2, quad matrix. In the before times, 13 months ago, almost every single thing in life and at work fit neatly into just one category. So for example, concerts were live and recorded, or live and in person. And, doctor's visits were live and in person. And university classes were live and in person. And meetups were live and in person. And Zoom meetings were live but online, and YouTube videos were online and recorded, and it was pretty rare for an experience to cross over, to exist in multiple boundaries. But what's happened now, because and COVID like didn't make this happen, but it vastly accelerated it. Like the start was already there, but COVID like brought the future like 10 years, closer to us. Is all of the boundaries between these quadrants are melting away, and so now we can build experiences that exist in multiple quadrants simultaneously. We can look at every single thing in life and we can say, can we make it better if some of it is going to be live and in person, and some of it is going to be live and online, and some of it is going to be online but asynchronous, online and recorded. And we can mix and match. We can basically remix reality. We can all be like DJs of all of time and space, and remix it and make better experiences. And what we get when we do that is what we're calling IRL plus. So the better than in real life plus. And this like multi-trillion-dollar opportunity is the plus, is like making the plus. Like we want to be the plus. And there's a lot more room in that plus for lots of other products and companies. We want to be the thing that you can add on to real life to make it better. And there's kind of lots of things that we're starting to do now. Lots of other approaches, kind of in the future. Lots of space for other companies. But I think that this is. I'm pretty old. I'm 49. This is my 5th startup. Like apparently I just like don't demonstrate learning behavior. Startup number 5, and I've been pretty lucky. I started my first 2 companies in Boston, kind of during the .com era, and were some of the first .com companies, and we sold those. And then and then Evernote, right at the start of the mobile era. And then I kind of retired after Evernote. I thought, okay, I'm going to semi-retire. I became a VC. I joined a large fund, General Catalyst, for a couple of years, and then realized I'm just not very good as a VC. And started All Turtles, and then out of All Turtles, we created mmhmm. So I've been through a bunch of these like major changes in society, and the first one that I really remember well was .com. Right, like in the late 90s, early 2000s, everyone was running around saying .com. And I remember like my first company was a e-commerce company, a .com company. And I remember getting into these discussions with people, with investors and people like that. And they would say like, well, this was in 1987. What percentage of companies do you think are eventually going to be connected to the internet? And some people would be like, well, I think up to 25% of companies will be connected to the internet. Back then it was like 1%. And other people were like, that's crazy. It'll never be 25%. Maybe it'll be like 2%. And we were like, we think it's going to be 100%. And it was, right? It took 10 years, but kind of over that next decade, just about 100% of all organizations became connected to the internet, which rewrote everything. Now, like everything you do, the internet is part of it. Which doesn't mean you do everything on the internet. Like even if I'm in Northwest Arkansas now, when the local farmer comes over to give me farm fresh eggs, like the eggs aren't on the internet, but like the payment she's taking certainly is. And like I found her on the internet and all of that kind of stuff, right? So it changed all of it. And that's what's happening again. That's what's happening now. So, then it happened again in 2007, 2008, around Evernote, around mobile. Remember 2007, 2008, everyone used to run around and say, mobile, just like .com. And it sounded stupid. .com sounded stupid at the time. And we knew that .com sounded stupid because we would have to stop saying it because it would take over the world. It would be everything. And like by 2005, like you didn't hear .com anymore because what the hell does that even mean? Everything is .com. Same 2007, 2008. Everyone was running around saying mobile. What's your mobile strategy? Like you don't hear people talking about their mobile strategy anymore because what does that even mean? Everything is mobile. Same thing is happening now, I think. And it's happening around what we're calling PVP, personal video presence. Right. So the idea is in the before times, right? 13 months ago, what percentage of every human being had to do important stuff in their lives on video. Not everything, but important stuff on a regular basis on video. I don't know, 1%, 2%. Now it's close to 100%. And then for businesses, it's even bigger. It's also PVP, but it's professional video presence. A year and a half ago, what percentage of every organization, every meetup, every company, every school, every church, every restaurant, every gym, every hospital, every organization, what percentage of every organization had to do important stuff, some important stuff on a regular basis on video? Again, single digits, maybe less than 1% even. In the near future, close to 100%. So the whole world is going to get rewritten. It's going to get recreated around this like 4-quadrant hybrid idea, because it could be better than it was before. And except that, like .com, I think it's going to change everything, but it's not going to take 10 years. I think .com took 10 years. I think this is like a 3-year cycle, and we're already a year into it. So we're already a third of the way down. So that's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build stuff that you can do that is IRL plus, better than in real life. We've only been at it for a few months, but it feels like it's off to a good start. And we'll be happy to. Hopefully, I'm actually connected to something and people are listening, because it's just been me talking one way. But I'm going to stop and wait for somebody else to do or say something now.
I believe that is my cue. Thank you, Phil. That was an excellent talk. We're going to start opening up the Q&A for everybody who is here. If you could please open up your Q&A panel, you'll find the icon down at the bottom of your Zoom window. I actually have a couple of questions to kick us off. So I was wondering, let's see, first one up, I'm really curious, like how you went from a creative studio doing a variety of different things into this product, which seems thematically different from everything else that's going on over at All Turtles. I'm curious how that's coming together from being able to manage that sort of a project. So within like our studio environment.
Yeah. So it's actually, I think, very consistent with what we're doing. It seems different because I think mostly because we were bad at explaining what we do at All Turtles, because we just never don't care that much about whether or not people understand it. The whole idea of All Turtles is the Silicon Valley model of like startups and VCs is bullshit. It's stupid. It's very inefficient. I've been on it again 4 times in the past. Invested in hundreds of companies. I've been on lots of boards. I've been in like every possible side of this. Bought companies, sold companies, started companies, whatever, shut down companies. Never any of mine yet, but it was always the first time. This idea is dumb. And it's dumb for the following reasons. Let's imagine that you're like the world's, let's say you're like one of the most talented musicians alive on the planet right now. You're like literally Mozart level, 1 in a million, like most talented musician. You don't have to start a music company. You just play. And the platforms have been created like YouTube, where you're going to reach 1 billion people. No one's like, make a music company. If you're one of the most talented writers in the world, you just write. You don't have to make a writing company or a publishing company. If you're one of the most talented filmmakers in the world, you go and you join Netflix or Disney or something and you make a movie. You don't have to like make your own movie studio. But if you're like a Mozart level, 1 in a million, really talented like product person, you have to make a company first. You have to you're like, oh, congratulations, allegedly brilliant product person. Here's the Wikipedia page on 409A valuations and how to start a company. Please go make a board of directors and have some meetings. And first you have to become a shitty CEO before you can actually see if you can change the world with some alleged, product talent. And that's silly. Like, who made that? Well, the VCs made it. It's in their interest. It's not in anyone else's interest. So we kind of thought nothing wrong with that approach, other than it's stupid and inefficient. Obviously, it works sometimes in Silicon Valley or maybe New York, but almost nowhere else. So how do we just how can we make an alternate structure where we can work with really talented people to make worthwhile products for the world with as little nonsense as possible without fetishizing the startup? And if some of these products will become startups, like mmhmm did, we'll spin them out, we'll raise money separately, and they'll become their own companies, if that's what makes the most sense for the product. And some of the products won't become their own companies, and that's fine too. We just want to make good products with good people in good ways. And our criteria at what we worked on under All Turtles we always had the same 4 criteria, which is we have to solve a real problem. So we only work on things that solve actual problems that exist in the world right now, not like hypothetical future problems, not like, something, blockchain, something. Like you gotta explain the problem. You got to point to actual living people that have this problem. You got to quantify the impact of this problem. They have to be people that we actually care about solving problems for. So that's the first thing. That already rules out 95% of everything. Second criteria is we need founders. We need a team that's like really passionate about this, that have been thinking about it for a while. Third thing is only allow direct business models. We never do anything with ads, data selling, nothing that creates a conflict of interest between like the users. We only do things where the users are the customers. There's like nothing, no indirect business models allowed. So it has to be able to get to profitability just because people want to pay for it. And the fourth thing, and this is the most important one, is the timing, where the way that we're set up as a studio, we are really excellent at building things that we can build for real and get to market in 12 to 18 months, from nothing to a real product in 12 to 18 months, but in a way that would have been impossible had we tried it 3 years ago. So this is the key. It's like, is it like we only work on things where this year was the first year in the history of the universe where it made sense to work on it. If it could have been built 3 years ago, we're not interested. But if 3 years ago it would have taken, a Google-sized group of like PhDs and hundreds of millions of dollars, but something has changed usually in the technology stack, sometimes though in the social stack. And 2020 was like some major changes in the tech stack, but some really major changes in the societal stack. And it made things possible to be mainstream in 2020 and 2021 that would have been crazy to do in 2018. So like mmhmm is just checks all four of those boxes. So it just made a lot of sense.
Excellent. And so we have a couple of new questions coming down the line also. And I think some of them are being handled by your peer also in the chat. I might by mistake hand some of them off to you. I hope not. We'll see what happens.
No, please. I'm happy to. Just like there's a lot of text. So if you want me to, I'm looking at the chat, but don't assume that I'm just going to see it. So if you want to call my attention to something, I'm happy to answer any questions. Just
okay, great.
I'll start
reading out a few of these questions.
Please,
I also just want to call out to everybody else. We do have a separate Q&A panel, and if you do use that, you'll be able to upvote each other's votes. So you'll get to the most interesting vote that you all want to get to. So I highly recommend you use that functionality in particular.
I didn't even know that like the Q&A panel existed in Zoom. This is literally the first time I've clicked on that button. That's actually good to know.
It's unusually complicated in a lot of ways. I always mess it up, but it's there. And somehow nobody else has managed to use it today either. So good idea. Maybe follow through could use a little more work. Anyways, let's go to our next question. So is this a standalone platform or does it work in conjunction with Zoom or other platforms? And that is, I'm not sure who that's coming from.
Yeah, it works with everything. So not these are only, I got tired of putting logos up there, but it works with it. So yes. So right now it works with everything. In the near future, in the sci-fi near future, it's still going to work with everything, but it'll also be a standalone platform. So right now it's a companion to other things, and that'll continue to be the case. But pretty soon you'll also be able to do all sorts of cool stuff with it without anything else. There'll be lots of first-party use cases.
Excellent. And it turns out I was misusing the Q&A panel. I was looking at the wrong part of it, and that's part of the challenge. So let's go to our highest ranked question right now, and it says, I love this analogy with Weekend Update. But part of the shtick of Weekend Update is that they are removed from the real. The joke is that the SNL cast and the news media more broadly are kind of unhinged. Have you factored this dimension of the talking head model in your pitches and designs?
Yeah, I think the important thing, as you can tell, like they're not the only ones that are kind of unhinged. A little bit of being unhinged, I think, is healthy, especially when you're trying to keep people engaged and awake when it's late at night and they're usually either sleeping or it's Saturday night, so they're having more fun. So I think like in some ways SNL was actually solving for a similar problem that we were solving for, which is, okay, how do you get people's attention at a time when there's like a lot of other things, a lot of other possibilities for what you do on Saturdays, again back in the before times when time meant something, and if they are at home, they're probably sleeping, so they're probably tired. right? If they're not, there's like a lot of other stuff to do. Well, it's the same thing with like it being on Zoom all day, except, less happy circumstances. So in some ways, like this was an intentional model for us because we thought that they were solving for a similar set of problems that we were solving for, trying to keep people engaged. Now, obviously, like we are not about like cracking jokes and doing crazy stuff. There is some of that. We're about understanding that if you're on video, you kind of have an obligation not to bore people, and we want to like make that possible, however you choose to do it. We want to like give you a tool set and a vocabulary to be engaging on video. And so yeah, the zaniness of SNL was an explicit kind of part of it, but some of the stuff we do is very serious. Some of the stuff we do is crazy. We've had just in our community, this is pretty cool. I remember at Evernote, there was a moment where I was like, we're onto something. Back in the early days at Evernote, I think this would have been in like 2008 or something. I used to have a Twitter. Twitter was also pretty new. And I used to have a search set up where whenever anyone said the word Evernote on Twitter, I would see it. And that was possible because that only happened like a few times a day. Like somebody, there's only like a few million people on Twitter, and Evernote was pretty new. And so like back then, like a few times a day, I would see anyone who said anything about Evernote on Twitter. And then it became, then it became way too much pretty fast. I turned it off. But one day when it was still manageable, I remember somebody tweeting that, I'm a priest and I love using Evernote for my sermons. And I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. We did not anticipate the clerical use case. Like we didn't make it for clerics. But, in hindsight, that makes total sense. Like if your job is to say something inspiring and creative once a week, yeah, you're going to need to like clip things from lots of different thoughts and organize your thoughts and have it with you at all times. So I'm like, yeah, the use case for clergy is, a really good use case. Didn't think of that. Literally an hour later, somebody totally unrelated to this person, because they weren't having a conversation. These were just random people on Twitter, tweeted, I'm Catholic and I use Evernote because it helps me keep track of all my sins so that I can confess them more efficiently every Sunday. And I was like, also a good use case. And now I see the spectrum of use cases. Like we've got the priests, we've got the sinners. Like, okay, that to me is a healthy product. And we started seeing that with mmhmm really early on as well. A lot of like religious institutions using it, which makes sense. A lot of teachers, a lot of journalists as well. But we've had like large multi-billion global companies using it for like investor calls and board meetings that are like very, very buttoned up and serious. And we actually we help them with that. We have a team called Creative Services that helps like companies do this correctly. We've had that. And then on the same day that I saw that, we had a group of hospital clowns. Literally this company, they're hospital clowns. That's what they do. Go to hospitals, they're clowns, and they do that so they could really scare sick children. I assume that's their goal, is just to terrify children. So they go and entertain children in hospitals, and they had to not do that in COVID. So they started doing these like virtual visits, but like you can imagine how engaging a clown is over Zoom, when you're like in a hospital bed. And so they started doing it with like iPads using mmhmm, and it was great. Like it's so funny the stuff they could do. Right? They embrace this IRL plus concept. They're like, well, we can we can go to space. We can like become small and like fall into a pizza, like stuff they couldn't do in real life. So like their clowning got better. And so I was like, okay, we got the clowns, we got the investment bankers, like we're good. We've got the good diversity of use cases. So I like having a little bit of each. That's a really long answer. Sorry about that.
No, we've got another 25 minutes up, so long answers are actually not a bad thing right now. There's a good one too. I love the old anecdotes. So next question that comes up is, in terms of PvP, professional, and the usage of the platform, have you seen a disconnect from company cultures holding on to the past, specifically in corporate, and the specifically corporate way of doing business versus adapting to engaging video collaboration?
Yeah, definitely. So here's what happens with this like IRL plus concept, right? So what happens is every time there's a major change, every time there's like a major shift, something new is invented. Imagine, like, think about the first films, the first movies, like when they first invented the film camera back in like, I don't know when that was, like 1912 or something. I just made that up, but it's probably in the very early part of, the 20th century. But I hadn't invented the rest of cinema. So they had this new thing. What are they going to do with it? Well, their old reality that they knew, the go-to move from the incumbent players is always to try to recreate their familiar reality, the previous reality, in the new technology. Their previous reality was, theater, right? They had like people on stage. And so like the first early movies were, a silent camera pointed at a stage with like actors standing there kind of awkwardly, right? And I'm sure that there was like, theater critics in 1915 or something. They were like, this newfangled cinema is like a really poor replacement for theater. It's nowhere near as good an experience. It'll never take over theater. And they were right, because they hadn't invented movies yet. It took another few decades for things that were like native to cinema to come along, and for them to invent multiple camera shots and editing and cutaways and close-ups. And then, of course, it became apparent that like movies aren't meant to be a replacement for theater. They're two totally different things. And even though movies weren't going to replace theater, theater was going to stay around forever. Movies were going to be a lot bigger than theater, 1,000x bigger. But it took that understanding that we're not trying to recreate the past. And then the same things happen every time. The same thing happened when TV came out. Like TV, like remember the first like TV shows or like the first newscaster on TV was like, well, the old reality was radio, right? So it was like dudes reading a piece of paper on radio, except you could see them. You still see that sometimes, right? It took a while to invent like, no, TV is not radio with pictures. It's a different thing. Same thing happened more in my lifetime around Evernote. So 2007, 2008, the new thing was mobile, right? Everyone had not everyone, but a lot of people had smartphones all of a sudden. But no one knew exactly what smartphone apps were going to be. In fact, we didn't even have the word app yet, because that was like Appster. That was 2008. And so the incumbent players did what they always do, which is they try to recreate the old reality with the new technology. And so Microsoft said, well, okay, we know what PC software is like. PC software is like Microsoft Word. And a smartphone is just a small PC. So smartphone software is just going to be, a smaller version of Microsoft Word. And it wasn't, right? It took like the native players. It took Evernote and Uber and Airbnb and Dropbox. Like it took us to be like, no. What you can do with smartphones has nothing to do with what you can do with PCs. It's not a replacement. It's a totally different thing. And PCs aren't going to go away because of smartphones, just like theater didn't go away because of movies. But smartphones are going to be 1,000x more prominent than PCs. And now that's happening with video. Now that's happening in this PvP, right, idea. So the incumbent players are trying to recreate their old reality. They're saying things like, okay, well, so what did we used to have? Well, we used to have meetings. What was a meeting? Well, a meeting was a bunch of boring people sitting in a boring room, talking about something boring for an hour. But now they can't be in the same room anymore because of COVID. So how do we get as close as possible to a bunch of boring people in a boring room, but on a computer? And like, yeah, that's great. Welcome to Zoom. Welcome to, web. Welcome to like video meetings 1.0. And we still see a lot of that. But obviously, and of course Zoom understands this and Microsoft gets it and WebEx gets it, like they're all working on it. They all understand that like this first generation thinking of trying to recreate the old reality in the new platform doesn't make any sense. It's not what it's going to be. It's going to take the native, like the new native generation of products and say, well, wait. Why are we trying to recreate the old reality? We didn't like the old reality to begin with. How do we make it IRL plus, right? How do we make it significantly better? Well, what was the meeting in the first place? Why are we there all at the same time in person? Which parts of it ought to be broken up to be asynchronous because that's more efficient and people can ingest information at their own time? What parts of it should be synchronous? What parts of it should be in person? How do we like recombine all of this to make it better and funner and fairer? And like, it's not going to look anything like a meeting in a few years. And just like with everything else, some companies are going to get that faster than others. But everyone's going to get it eventually. And, by eventually, I don't mean in 30 years. I mean in 2 or 3.
So I have a couple of follow-up questions for that. The first is that you have with the current product, and you mentioned the inspiration from Weekend Update, or that's how you're kind of framing it right now. Weekend Update is still sort of like an old medium sort of thing, right? Yeah. And it's also it's very exciting, but it's also only one way. Yeah, so I'm curious, what are and it's still early in the game, but there's already, I'm thinking, like some sort of explosion of new online experiences happening.
Yeah.
Where do you see it going?
Yeah. I mean, and this is like, and Weekend Update, of course, is like, is a mockery of the old style, right? Like all they're doing is mocking it. So it's like, so here's like as a secret, like entrepreneur tip. The like a good analogy isn't actually in any way accurate. A good analogy is only meant to like seem accurate for the first 2 seconds that you hear it. So when I'm like, yeah, and our 2 second pitch is Weird Sudden Weekend Update, people are like, oh, I understand what that means. And then I move on. Because I think about it for more than 10 seconds and it's all sorts of imperfections in this analogy. Of course, we're not literally trying to just kind of duplicate that. We're trying to do the next thing. The philosophy here is this. It's like, there's a new world. It's hybrid. That creates a bunch of problems. And people have kind of 3 different reactions. The most common reaction is, this sucks, I give up. I'm just gonna wear sweatpants for the rest of my life and not be effective. Fine. Slightly better reaction is people who say, well, okay, what are the problems? In what ways is video not as good? And how do we solve those problems? In what ways is being distributed not as good? Oh, I miss the office because we used to be able to collaborate in one room, but now we can't. So how do we get as close as possible? How do we get like almost as good? How do we problem solve? And that's important. But I think much more important than solving the problems is to like think about what are the superpowers? What are the things that you can do on video that are ridiculous, that you could never do before, that are much better than what was available to you before? And 20% of our time is spent solving the problems, and 80% is spent like doubling down on the superpowers, on the things that now you can do them, you couldn't do them before, so you can make them better. That's the plus, right? Like, for example, when I'll give you a very frivolous example. Well, not that frivolous. It's kind of cool. Okay, so we have a thing called big hands mode. So if I hold my hands up and I make a heart emoji, I get a big beating heart, right? So if I'm just like in a Zoom box and I want to agree with someone, I do a thumbs up, I get big Hulk thumb, right? And also we have like all sorts of emoji that works like this. And this is cool. Like, it's fun. We call it useful. It's fun and useful because it's a nice way to like give feedback quickly. It's kind of cool. And the next time I'm in an in-person meeting, right? I don't know when that's going to be, but the next time I'm in an in-person meeting and someone is talking and I want to show that like, oh man, I love this, what you're saying. And I go and I hold up a heart and like, I got to turn it off so it doesn't actually happen, right? Yeah. Okay. And I do this and like, I don't get a giant heart. I'll be like, what's going on? Like, this is like, I'm doing it. Why isn't it happening? This reality sucks, right? Like, I never want to see, if I do a thumbs up, I never want to see bony human Phil thumb ever. I always want to see, beefy Hulk thumb. It's just like Hulk thumb is better than human thumb. So it's very, very small example and kind of a fanciful example. But the idea is, instead of saying, how do we get to be almost as good? The philosophy is, how do we do things that are like the new superpowers? And many of the superpowers are far bigger than Hulk thumb. Like the ability to basically break through the tyranny of linear time. Like, not everything has to be done synchronously in linear time. We can break them apart and we can choose what parts to do at which times and at which speeds based on what's most effective. That's amazing. And kind of world changing. And I can demo some of that stuff and we could talk more about it. But like, it's literally everything from like, the philosophy is, what are the superpowers? How do we double down on them? Like, take it seriously. 20% of the time solving problems, 80% of the time like training up the new superpowers. And rather than trying to recreate the old world, like, make the new one better.
Phil, so you left like a really interesting invitation to ask you about how you're doing nonlinear, how you're going to do nonlinear presentations. And I totally want to hear it, but we're going to I'm going to put a 2-minute cap on it so we make sure we get to the rest of the questions, some more questions too.
Well, are there any questions about why we're called mmhmm? Because then I can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Let's just pretend. Let's pretend.
Yeah, this top, it's got 18 votes on it.
Oh man, yeah. All right. Okay, so let's see. I think it's This thing. Here we go. Okay. So I did this video a few months ago. It's on our website. You can go find it. And basically I say, hey, so I get a lot of questions about why we're called mmhmm. Actually, wait, I just realized I got to change my mic. Hopefully, microphone. All right. Okay, you guys can hear me, right? You can still hear me?
Yeah, it changed, but we can hear you.
Fantastic. All right. I was on the wrong mic this whole time, but luckily it worked.
It actually sounded better before, but keep going.
Okay, I will go back to I wonder why. Anyway, so people ask why we called it mmhmm. And so I thought I'd make this video to explain why we called it mmhmm, and also to demo this new feature we have called interactive recordings, which lets you break the tyranny of linear time. And so anyway, usually when people ask me why we called it mmhmm, I say because it's important to have a name that you can say while eating, and that's true, but there's actually many other fake jokey reasons for why we called it mmhmm, so I thought I would share some with you. So here we go, 5 reasons why the company is called mmhmm. Reason number 1 is I like palindromes. I cannot lie. Reason number 2 is the word mmhmm is currently not understood by any of the AI voice assistants, so it's probably good for privacy. Reason number 3 for why we called it mmhmm is we save a lot of money on vowels. Just ask your parents what that means. Reason number 4 is when SAP tries to copy us, they're going to have to call it SAP Meh for enterprise. I'm just joking. Much respect, SAP. Please don't destroy us. The number 1 fake reason why we called it mmhmm was because we couldn't figure out how to spell mwah, right? So there was a bunch of interesting things that just happened, right, in that, including the fact that like a bunch of that was from a year ago. And some of that is right now. And I could smoothly go back and forth between them, as can you if you had the link, right? So this is what we call an interactive recording, right? So like I can send you a link ahead of time of a presentation that I just do like this. You can play it back. You can also, in our interactive recordings, you can jump around slides. You can play it back at double speed. So you can consume it as quickly or slowly or as many times as you need to asynchronously. But then at any time, like we can sync up, right? And we can jump on like a live discussion and do that and like transition smoothly, both in the presenter side and the audience side, between synchronous and asynchronous, real time and time shifted. It's kind of like having TiVo for like your whole life. It's like a DVR for, for everything. And imagine how like DVRs changed how you watch TV. Like this changes how you will. It's not literally just time shifting, it's a bunch more stuff. But this is kind of the similar idea, right? And like while you were watching that, I was watching you watch it, right? Because I'm still here. And so I can choose when to like, I can interrupt it, I can divert it to go a different place, I can jump in live, like all of this stuff. It's kind of mind bending. And we're gonna do a lot more of this in the next few months. But this is like, if you want to talk about superpowers, it's breaking the tyranny of linear time is the real one, but that's kind of hard to wrap your head around a little bit. So, until then, it's nice, it's fun to do slides and SNL and fly and shrink and make yourself into a ghost and do stuff like that.
Excellent. I could see the usage for that reusing bits all the time. I repeat myself in presentations probably a good 6 times every day. All right, we're going to go to the next audience question. Next audience question is, what are other features besides the background and ability to add a deck? Can you add polls, etc.?
Yeah, so you can do you can share anything. I can screen share any app or any device. So like I can I can plug in my phone, and let's see. I think I got my phone here somewhere. Let's see. Oops. There it is. So like this is this is my real phone. I can see I've got here. I'll make it bigger. Got, 142,000 unread emails. It's all. I'm a bad person, and so but this could just as easily be a browser window, an app, a poll, kind of whatever. And we're now working on an API. We actually just built our very first integration. We're going to do a bunch more where we can just integrate, rather than just going through screen sharing, we can integrate more deeply into all these services. So the first one we build is Giphy, So like I can push a button in the app right now, and I can say like make a Giphy slide, and I can search. You're just going to search for taco because I like this taco, and then I get a taco, and so you can kind of see like how everything else can get pulled into it. So you can have full interactivity both on the audience side and on the presenter side around this, and that's another one of these like leaning into the superpowers, right? Like making it. Doing stuff that you can never do before. Like when I occasionally teach, I lecture at some colleges, usually about like entrepreneurship, because I don't know, that's like all people ever want to hear me talk about. Blah blah blah, startup metrics, something, stay in school, don't do drugs, whatever you say to entrepreneurs. When I started doing it on video, I was like, oh man, like I kind of suck on video. Like I should just stop doing this until I can go and do it in person. But then I like realized that I was just doing the old thing that I was doing in person on video, and that sucks. I should do something different. So I started I made some slides, I started using mmhmm, and like I'm far better a lecturer on video than I am in person. Like if you ever get a chance to like hear me talk about entrepreneurship, like in person or on video, like take the on video option. It's better. And that's the philosophy. It's like there's a lot of stuff in life that you can do that you could do better online, especially since now part of my talk is synchronous, part of it is asynchronous. There's like all sorts of magic floating tacos, important stuff that you just couldn't do in real life.
Excellent. Well, we still got keep the floating taco around. Please keep the floating taco around for a few moments, and we're going to go on. I think we have room for at least one more question, maybe two more questions. And a reminder to everybody that the Q&A panel, you can go in there, upvote those ones you want. I'm going to ask one random one, but whatever comes up most next, whatever gets the most votes next, we'll do as our last question. So last question coming up from me will be, it's from Jana Berliner, will be, can you have multiple speakers, and what would they look like? Would they have the same background, or would they be different?
Yeah, we have a thing called Copilot, where it lets you have two people. And right now it's basically you can synchronize your backgrounds and your slides. And so like if you're on Zoom, you're still in separate windows, but if you're in speaker mode, whichever one of you is speaking comes up big, but you're always like literally synchronized on the same slide. So it makes it really easy to like co-present together. So we do that all the time. And we are working on a version now that's going to let you, that's actually going to let you have multiple people like in this, like break out of the Zoom boxes, like I can, in the same box, in the same space. That's like super magic. But yeah, like I think breaking out of the Zoom boxes is like a big deal. So we are working on that now, and we'll be showing that off at some point pretty soon.
If I could throw in a request, it would be great to be able to have an event like this where people could come in with their own presentations. We can still fiddle around with it on the back. But
yeah, absolutely.
Maybe that will happen someday.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Or you can do like, I could be doing a event. This is something that our creative services team put together. So we do like custom environments and slides and events for companies. So I could be doing, here I can like maybe at a podium like this, and I could be talking and presenting an award, and then I could say, so please join me in welcoming Mr. Taco, and then Mr. Taco can appear this way, and we can like have a conversation, and then Mr. Taco goes away, and then I'm back like this. It's all sorts of stuff. So right, it works already, but you have to be a taco. But it'll work for non-taco based life forms soon.
All right. Hopefully that will include most of us. Our final question for the night comes from the famous anonymous attendee who asks, how do you frame /design IRL plus features vis-a-vis video fatigue? For example, one of the proposed solutions to cognitive overload has been to take breaks to switch off video and move to audio only.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think video fatigue is a thing. And I think a lot of the research that's coming out about it is super interesting. A lot of it also feels super wrong, but understandably like why it's wrong. But like the first thing to acknowledge is that it's a totally real thing. One thing that's like very fatiguing is like locking eye contact with yourself, which is super freaky. Like the freaky thing right now is like I'm making eye contact with myself and I never want to do that. And that's like really tiring. It's almost like, how like sometimes you're in a bad audio connection, you can like hear your own voice, like a quarter second delay. And it's like the most distracting thing in the universe. I think it's like the same kind of thing. But there's lots of other things as well. And so I think like we very much created this to battle video fatigue in multiple ways, by making it more fun, by making it more engaging, by making it like less about the, giant head full screen people and more about like where they are and what they're talking about, and having big floating hearts and things like that. But I also find myself quite a lot doing audio only. What I usually do is for one-on-one discussions, especially with people that I talk to frequently, I almost always do audio only. I almost always just do, like I'll sit in my backyard, especially now it's nice out, and I'll just have my headphones on and I'll like listen to the birds and just do audio only. If it's multiple people, or if it's someone that I haven't seen in a while, or I don't know very well, like, yeah, then we'll do video. Or if we have stuff that we have to show each other, then we'll do video. And yeah, just try to be mindful of, of when you're doing video and when you're not. The idea is this. So it's IRL plus, right? So do on video, render onto Caesar that which is Caesar's. Do on video what's better on video. Do in real life whatever's better in real life. So for example, I'm on a bunch of boards. Obviously, we hadn't had an in-person board meeting in over a year. I was talking to someone who I'm on a board with, and they were saying, "Oh man, once we get vaccinated, hopefully in a couple of months, like in the summer, maybe we should all like fly in and do the next board meeting in person." And I was like, well, because so we can have like dinner and stuff afterwards. And I said, well, I totally agree. Like we should go have dinner in person. I'm happy to fly in just to go have dinner with you guys because that's important. But I kind of want to do the meeting the way we've been doing it for the past year, because the actual part where we're like, I am getting updates from you about the state of your company, I want to do that at home with my 2 big monitors with all the data ahead of time, being able to time shift. Like that's more efficient. I don't want to sit in a room, pass papers around for the information sharing portion. So why don't we do the meeting the way we've been doing it for the past year, which has actually been really productive? And then let's just get together for dinner or for drinks, and I'll fly in for that, because the meeting portion is better online and the drinking portion is better in person. So just, the nice thing is we're no longer on video, or very soon we won't be on video because we have to be. We'll be on video when we want to be because it's better, and we'll be drinking and eating in real life when that's better. So I think this is I think the change that this is going to like make in society is profound. Like I think like I can see in the future. I go to Japan a lot. I used to. I can see in the future like going to Japan, like working out of my hotel room, because like the actual meetings I want to have, like I'd rather have out of my hotel room. I'll need a slightly bigger hotel room. Usually I go to Japan, my hotel room is about 60% of my size. Probably need a bigger hotel room, but I'd like to work out of that. And then the only reason I'm actually there in person is because every night I'm having like multiple dinners and drinks with people. So I think like this changes hotels and transportation and meetings and like all sorts of stuff. There's no reason for me to go sit in a box in the sky with a bunch of people all at the same time. There is a reason for me to go and sit like in a really cool restaurant. And for this kind of stuff, for meetups, I definitely want to have meetups in person. Like this kind of thing in person or hybrid, it would be great. But I'm not like there every day working with you people. I'm just there to like, to meet folks. So I think a hybrid version of that is going to be fantastic.
There's not an iPhone. Is there an iPhone control for right now?
An iPhone what?
An iPhone control, like a phone control. So you could be in front of an area. And
so you can hack together all sorts of remote controls. For example, I use a PS4 remote with it, and it works great. And you can use like Logitech and whatever. We are working on an iOS app, which will be out hopefully pretty soon. That'll do like remote controls and other stuff. There's all sorts of cool stuff you could do, with an iPhone. So you can hack it together yourself with some third-party stuff now. But you will have like official, first-party support from us as well. And yeah, I use all sorts of remotes. I have like an Elgato switch deck. Like I like the holodeck feel. Like I like standing most of the time. I like kind of walking around. And yeah, like I don't want to like always like reach for my keyboard to change slides.
So it's the end of the hour. So Phil, I want to say a big thank you to you. And it's hard to get a round of applause. So we'll just say big thank you. It's really nice having you here. I want to give you a chance to give us a last 30 seconds of a plug. Anything you want to tell us about either things that are going on at mmhmm or at Evernote. Sorry, not Evernote. I meant to say All Turtles.
Evernote's cool too. I mean, I'm not involved with Evernote anymore, but I'm a big fan of the team and the company and the product, and I'm a shareholder and I use it every day. So
Excellent.
well, yeah. I mean, so we're mmhmm.app. The most important thing you can do is go to mmhmm.app and apply for a job and work with us. So that's what I want more than anything else. Is we just need to hire a lot more people. We were 2 people 10 months ago, and now we're at like 45-ish.
It's fantastic.
And we have like 20, 30. So that app. And if you want to just download it and try it out, it's generally available for Mac. It's open beta for Windows, so you can download it and use it on Windows, but it doesn't have all of the what is it, unhinged. It isn't quite as unhinged as the Mac version yet, but it's getting there. We just launched it for business, so you can sign up your whole team with it. Yeah, would love to talk with anyone about it. Just send me a note, send Andrew a note. But if you're interested in making this IRL plus world, if you want to help make the plus, we're hiring, and we're hiring fully distributed everywhere in the world.
Excellent. Phil, thanks again for coming in, and for everybody else who helped make this run. Always wonderful to run this thing. And again, to all the attendees, we love having you come back. We expect we'll be back again in May. We have something tentative. It's not scheduled exactly yet, but we'll send out the announcement when it is confirmed. Again, everybody have a great evening. Have a wonderful spring. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.